Good morning. If you're tuning in, you're watching Good Morning Kenya and KBC Channel 1. I'm Regina Manyara on entrepreneurship. This morning, we're going to be focusing on identity fraud. I don't know if you have been a victim of such, but if you have, and to just ensure that you do not end up being one, well, this is a conversation that is keenly tailored for you. Remember, we welcome your feedback. Our official station Twitter handle is at KBC Channel 1 News. Mine is at Ray Manyara. So how do we tackle fraud, without alienating customers? And when you talk about identity fraud, what does it mean? What are the solutions? Biometrics? To take us through this conversation is none other than the CEO of CompuLynx, that is Mr. Sailesh Savani. Thank you very much.
Good morning.
Asante sana for making time.
Shukru sana.
So now, when you talk about issues of fraud, especially when it comes to identity fraud, maybe we can start from there. How do we demystify that so that our viewer can understand what we're talking about?
So basically anything where somebody impersonates somebody else. So I may go and say, look, my name is John and I want to withdraw some money from a bank, right? Or I want to make somebody pay into my M-Pesa account instead of somebody else's, right? So that's where, that's identity fraud and identity theft. So somebody impersonates another person and gets benefit out of that impersonation.
Over this one last year, we have seen a shift, towards the digital platform. From where you sit being in the value chain then, would you have some numbers for us to show us exactly, how we have performed in as far as identity theft or rather fraud is concerned during this one period that we've really been focusing on digital matters?
So with the advent of COVID-19, obviously there has been a humongous increase in identity theft and frauds related to cybercrime as a bigger subject. For example, in Switzerland, there have been more than double the case of cyber threats and cyber security attacks and identity thefts. Coming back home to Kenya, there has been, I would say, at least a 76% increase in identity-related thefts, where somebody else is impersonating somebody else and then defrauding an organization or an individual. It could be a bank, it could be a telco, or it could be any other commercial organization where some commercial benefits are being reaped by fraudsters. Yeah,
financial service providers have been, targets of cyber crime. Maybe it's because where the money is and the vast human resource then. How then do these firms bridge the gap, prevent fraud without alienating customers? What are the solutions out here?
So basically because of the pandemic, customers are now not wanting to have face-to-face transactions or not able to have face-to-face transactions, and that's where technologies like biometric technologies become very, very handy, whereby adding fingerprint or face or voice to a customer's credentials on the bank's platform or a financial services provider's platform will make sure that the customer that they're dealing with on the other side of the value chain, it could be a phone, it could be an internet connection, or it could be a mobile banking platform. The bank needs to make sure that the person using the mobile banking platform is the person that they have on their database. So it could be Sailesh, for example, who has been registered on the bank's platform, but somebody else poses as Sailesh on an internet banking platform and then withdraws money or makes payments to other accounts. So using biometric technology to add to the eKYC process for banks and financial institutions makes it a much secure process, because now it's the new normal. A lot of customers are not ever going to be accessing the physical channels of banks and of telcos, and this is the time when banks and telcos really need to look at how they're going to leverage technology to reduce, if not completely eliminate, identity-related thefts.
But now let's look at the situation on ground. A majority of these FSPs suffer what, in theory, the technology threat avoidance theory. You know, we know that this threat, but I do not want to invest into it because, you know, it's a heavy or a capital investment. From where you sit then, how do we change this dynamics? Because they are the targets, but a majority of them do not want to invest in the solutions out here.
I think a lot of the biometric solution providers, like ourselves also, are changing the financial or the commercial model, whereby financial service providers are able to access these technologies on a pay-as-you-use basis. So that then reduces the barrier to enter into such huge investments. Of course, you cannot eliminate complete investments. You must secure your internal infrastructure, for example, and you must secure your physical channels as well. And of course, you have to upgrade some of the systems. So there are some costs involved, but if you compare the costs of entering into a biometric-enabled system, say about a year and a half back and now, there has been significant amount of reduction in the cost, primarily because most providers are looking at a pay-as-you-use model, which makes it easier for organizations to adopt it quickly.
To adapt that. Now let's look at the end user, because it is I who is going to be keying in my credentials and such then. How does one then protect themselves on an individual capacity from identity fraud? Especially online, because that's where it happens, online.
Yeah. So basically, I think it's a matter of first educating the end user. That look, if you receive an email, for example, saying this is your bank and please click this so that we can update your details, for example, or click this for getting the latest updates on COVID, or click this link to secure your computer, whatever. So you know, you get all these what they call phishing emails. So the customers need to be educated that you need to be very wary of such emails and make sure that the sender ID is actually your bank. That is one. And two is, if you're not sure, call your relationship manager and ask him, I've received this email. Do I need to do anything about this? You know, or people receive SMSs and people receive mobile app updates. And these are ways where fraudsters are, you know, attacking vulnerable customers and getting details out of their systems. So one is educating the customer. And two is, of course, then making sure that with the application of biometric technology in the validation process, the bank is making sure that even if somebody is accessing their account, he or she has been validated through his or her biometric credential to make sure that this is the right person that is allowed to use this particular bank account or a mobile account.
Mr. Sailesh, let me ask a question borrowing from something that one of us actually went through. They received a phone call. You know, it was not an email or a text. It was a phone call. Oh, we want to upgrade X, Y, Z, so kindly do not switch off your phone or, you know, such so that we can upgrade else. So they did not actually switch off their phones, you know. But generally, you would rush to switch off your phone because it has gone through your mind that this is a fraudster.
Right.
So what happens? Just take us to, because those are the basics. You know, that's what Kenyans want to understand. That should I switch off my phone, or in this particular case, they kept their phone open, and they even went and called the customer care, and they said, by the way, that was not us.
Right.
So what happens in that time where, you know, you've switched off your phone and such?
Yeah, so typically when you receive a call like that, it is definitely something that one must go with caution. And leaving your line open makes you more vulnerable. Because with a line open, fraudsters have ways of accessing your device and installing malwares on your device, just on a voice call as well. So the best is really, a short answer, is switch off your phone in such a situation and do not put it on and do not answer phones coming from different identities. And there are times when you get a call from an unknown caller, right? There's no number there. Or there are calls coming from Eastern Europe countries.
Oh yeah, we had a situation, and I think it got, you know, nationwide publicity, where there was a certain line that was red, always coming in red. And Kenyans are saying, oh, this is a number from the devil, la, 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 Illuminati and such. But it was a premium. Actually, immediately you answer, you lose your data and such. Yeah. So that's where we are in that age.
Right.
Other than just being extra cautious in terms of, you know, do not respond to suspicious calls, texts, or, you know, emails and such, then, even with the use of biometrics, then, looking at what happens then. You know, I have reported this particular matter, or rather I've alerted my bank or my telco. What then? I still feel vulnerable as an end user. What then? What is out there to ensure that, you know, customer confidence?
Yeah, I think see, a lot of us have now started working from home. And as a result, there is a bigger exposure.
Yes.
Because home networks are not as secure as enterprise networks, right? So, for example, your Wi-Fi password is typically like, you know, Sailesh 1234, you know? You make it easier, so you just, and it's so easy for anybody to hack into your Wi-Fi network, right? So one is, you must secure your Wi-Fi password, right? Make it more complex. And two is, as you're working from home, you know, we get a lot of distractions, right? We get called by the kids, we get called by the family, and as you're working, you know, you leave your bank account on, and then you go and do something, and then you don't know if somebody else is remotely accessing your computer, because there is no protection on your phone or on your laptop, right? So putting an antivirus or some kind of a malware protection system on your devices, including your laptop or your phones, is critical, particularly at this time, because we are in not very secure networks, because we are all working from home. So putting an antivirus, putting an anti-malware kind of a protection system on your devices can protect you. And if you're moving out of your leaving your device unattended, make sure you kind of log out from your banking mobile platform or your internet banking platform, or shut down the laptop. Just put it off, you know. So these are things that you can do as a user. And from an enterprise perspective, for banks, for example, it's a matter of continuous education to the customer that, look, you will never receive a phone call from us. You will never receive an email from us asking you to click something or something of that sort, right? And customers, I think it's about carrying our own baggage. We must make sure that we protect ourselves. If we do not protect ourselves, nobody else is going to help protect us.
Other from just taking up individual responsibility in regard to this matter, then, what would you advise one to do? One who's already been a victim of fraud, what steps would they take? I mean, you have woken up one morning, you clicked on something, your bank is been wiped clean. What to do?
I think a lot of banks have insurances to cover their customers, so good to speak to the bank. And two is, of course, make sure that you are protecting other assets, other digital assets. It could be your email account, it could be your website, it could be some files that you're storing online on the cloud. So it's important that you start protecting other digital assets. While you've lost something, how do you do damage control, right? So make sure that you are protecting, changing passwords of all your email accounts, of all other digital assets that you're accessing with passwords. And these days, a lot of these sites have a biometric option to make sure that you have a two-factor authentication, right? So make sure that you enable two-factor authentication on all digital assets, so that you get an SMS as a one-time password or something, so that you make sure that as you put in the email and the password, there's an OTP, and you put in the OTP. So these are things that you can do yourself to protect digital assets that have not yet been attacked.
So how unfailable is biometrics? Because from what I'm hearing is that you have placed a lot of faith in biometrics, you know, as an emerging trend to curb online, or rather identity fraud. How infallible are they?
So, look, it's a technology that's been here for a long time, particularly fingerprint, right? Face and voice are technologies that are emerging. They've been there in the market for a long time, but these have, a lot of the organizations have fast-tracked their what they call non-contact biometric agenda. So face and voice is evolving as a technology. A lot of organizations are adapting these technologies, and it's a matter of evolution. And yes, there's nothing like foolproof. It's a Tom and Jerry game where the fraudsters are ahead of the game, and they always have something to hit against any new technology. So it's a matter of time. We just have to up our game and make sure that we are continually upgrading our technologies and making sure that whatever technologies we have implemented are well protected from any external threat.
Now, talking about our state of preparedness in general, in the event that we are hit by a cyber attack in large scale, how would you rate Kenya's, response to security, as far as securing ourselves, cyber security issues? As you work on our response, we take a short break. When we return, we're going to be talking about, curbing identity fraud and if biometrics is a way to go. We'll be right back. Identity fraud. We've been issues of impersonation at the firm level as well as the end user. Taking us through this conversation is the CEO of CompuLynx, Sailesh Savani. Now, before we took a short break, we're talking about now, in general, as a country, where do we stand in as far as our state of preparedness against any potential cyber threat? Are we there yet?
As compared to the rest of the world, if you look at the developed world, we've got a long way to go. But if we look at Africa, for example, I think we are in a better place than a lot of the other African states. I wouldn't say we're number one, but we are fairly highly ranked. But again, there's a split between a lot of private sector enterprises that are very well protected. And then there are the public sector enterprises where there is a lot of work to be done. And again, in the private sector also, there are the MSMEs, which are the vulnerable organizations who do not have the wherewithal to kind of protect themselves and make those kind of investments to make sure that they're ready for any potential attack. So I would say on a scale of 1 to 10, I would say we are at about 4.
4. That is still very low. Looking at, the internet age is here, Internet of Things is here. We cannot run away from it. So one of the emerging trends we have seen across the globe is the issue of ethical hacking. To just, scale up capacity. From where you sit, would this be now something that the government needs to fully engage in to support those companies that do not have, the requisite capital to actually invest in systems that, we support ethical hacking, we have these people come test your systems, we scale up capacity and such. Is this something that, can marry the gap between the private sector and public sector when it comes to cybersecurity?
Yes, so I don't think it's the government's job to help private sector to, to protect their systems. But ethical hacking, I think it's about awareness, right? And to make people aware to think like hackers, right? So once I start thinking like a hacker, then I'll say, oh my God, if I was a hacker, this is where I would attack my systems or my network or my data, right? So then I will say, okay, now what do I need to do, right? It's like protecting your own house, right? You put multiple locks, right, into your house when you see that, look, there's been a rampant amount of thefts in the estate or whatever, right? So then you put multiple locks, you change keys. So that's the education that we need to provide. And once the customer is educated, and there is financing available. Look at the banks; they have humongous amount of funds for MSMEs. To protect their businesses, to grow their businesses, and risk management is part of a growth process. So banks will be very happy to fund at a reasonable rate. So it also creates a niche in as far as investments is concerned.
Absolutely. Ethical hacking. Think like a thief to catch the thief. Now we're thinking like hackers. Absolutely. To not get hacked.
Absolutely.
To not get hacked. So one of our guests this morning has also now brought out the issue of impersonation of the dead.
Right.
Impersonation of the dead. How I mean, how then do we use biometrics, or what is out there to ensure that this does not happen to us or our kin?
Right. Yeah, so basically, if you have biometric credentials attached to every record of a customer, of a bank account holder, of a mobile account holder, then it becomes very easy for companies to make sure that dead persons are not impersonated, right? So if I log into a bank account which is not protected by biometric, in impersonating a dead person, it becomes very easy for me to do that, right? But if that account is protected with biometric, then I have to put the dead person's face in front of the camera, or I have to put the dead person's fingerprint on the fingerprint reader to be able to access that bank account, right? So biometric becomes super handy when it comes to impersonating.
So from where you sit, then even biometrics, you can use that as a solution to, you know, ghost workers within the public, public fora. You know, we've had parastatals complaining about ghost workers and such.
Oh, yeah.
We can use biometrics for that.
Yes.
Now, responsible use of data. Man, I think all Kenyans get that unsolicited text to, I don't know, get a delivery of pizza, get a certain shoe. You never shopped at that particular shop, or even you were never interested in pizza, but you're still getting the SMSs, the emails and such. Responsible use of data.
Oh, that's a huge subject. You know, I mean, we enacted the Data Protection Act.
Yes.
But I guess what we're not probably doing as a country is not enforcing it so much, right? There are companies that are managing their customer data responsibly, but there are companies that are not so serious about it, and a lot of the hack happens internally, you know, where there is disgruntled employees taking away customers' data and selling them to people for financial gain. So one is to really enforce the act, you know. That's important. We've gone and enacted it, but we're not enforcing it enough. You know, there is no penalty, you know, there is no consequence for data leakage. Now, how do we make sure that companies use their data responsibly? By having a serious consequence for data breach.
We have it in theory, we don't have it in practice.
Yeah, but it's a matter of time.
As we come to a close, Sailesh there, what role then is CompuLynx playing in all this, in as far as identity fraud is concerned?
Yeah, I think we've been in the space of biometric technology for a long time, and we believe that that's the technology that's going to be the future. We believe that physical IDs are going to be a thing of the past in time to come, right? And you are your identity, and that's what we are doing. That's what we are propagating. That's what we are educating our customers about. That use of biometric technology to replace passwords. And to replace anything that is only known to you, right? So your identity is known to you. Passwords are stored on systems, right? And OTPs are stored on systems. But you hold your fingerprint, you hold your face, you hold your voice. So we are selling technology solutions that are biometrically enabled, and we enable our customers to use biometric technology on top of their existing systems, and that's where we are seeing a lot of uptake.
So the future, as you say, is digital, and we also hold that data is king. So some of the firms are, using our data, rather the data they collect responsibly, but there's some, well, we all say in a marketplace, there's still a madman or a madwoman somewhere around the corner. Our guest this morning, Sailesh Savani, the CEO of CompuLynx. The conversation here has been around, how do you better protect yourself against identity fraud? Is that secure your emails, your passwords and everything, and do not, respond to suspicious calls or texts or even emails. If you doubt anything, call your service provider, because that might just as well be a scam. I'm Regina Manyara. You've been watching Good Morning Kenya. Do not go away. We focus now on matters